How bad does a relationship have to get before you decide to break up? Is it when regular fights become the norm, or when your partner starts speaking to you with disrespect, constantly putting you down? Maybe it's when they start targeting your insecurities, saying things just to hurt you. Or is it when they cheat on you? And what about physical abuse? Sometimes it goes even further, to a point where it can cost someone their life. That's exactly what happened between a 28-year-old OnlyFans model, Courtney Clenney, and her boyfriend, Christian. Courtney Clenney was born on April 21st, 1996, in Texas. She came from a wealthy family, and her father was a financial advisor, ensuring that Courtney never experienced financial struggles. In fact, she was quite spoiled. Her parents rarely said no to her, giving her everything she wanted. Naturally, this shaped Courtney's behavior, making her used to getting her way. But she wasn't just a privileged child. She was also incredibly active. From a young age, Courtney participated in numerous sports like horse riding, swimming, football, and gymnastics. And the list goes on. Alongside her athletic interests, she also developed a passion for theater and performing arts. Courtney wasn't just passionate about sports. She also loved to dance. With her involvement in so many physical activities, it's no surprise that she maintained an incredibly fit and toned physique. But for Courtney, that wasn't enough. During high school, she became even more serious about her fitness. From intense workouts and gym sessions to yoga and weightlifting competitions, she did it all. Her dedication paid off as she won numerous competitions and even became a professional fitness coach. While she excelled in fitness and sports, academics never interested her. After high school, she decided not to attend college. Instead, she shifted her focus to her fitness career and began building a presence on social media. Her content, especially on Instagram, quickly gained attention. Courtney's follower count grew at a rapid pace, and soon she expanded her platform by starting her own YouTube channel. Eventually, she moved to Los Angeles, where opportunities flooded in. She gave numerous interviews, collaborated with well-known models, and even got featured in Playboy. Courtney absolutely loved the attention. Every photo shoot, every video, and every social media post brought her the validation she craved. The spotlight became an addiction, and in her pursuit of constant admiration, she made a major decision. In 2016, Courtney joined OnlyFans. And Courtney, being young, fit, and undeniably attractive, saw an opportunity. She decided to start sharing her own explicit photos and videos. Now, it's worth mentioning that even before joining OnlyFans, Courtney already had wealth and fame. With her successful modeling career and massive social media following, she wasn't struggling for money. But OnlyFans opened up a whole new world of financial success and public recognition. Courtney Clenney's success on OnlyFans skyrocketed. Within no time, she made a staggering $2 million from her Instagram sponsorships alone. And through her explicit content on OnlyFans, she earned an unbelievable $25 million. Yes, men were willing to spend that much just for her content. Despite already coming from a wealthy family, Courtney became financially independent and extremely successful. Her luxurious lifestyle was something many could only dream of. On the other hand, Christian Obumseli was born in 1994. He had a deep passion for football and basketball, and he was genuinely talented at both sports. His coach once described him as a kind, disciplined, and caring person who was always smiling and willing to help others. Christian wasn't just good at sports, he was also smart with his money. He invested in crypto and the stock market, making enough to live a comfortable life on his own. Then, in 2020, Courtney and Christian met. It was love at first sight. In the beginning, their relationship seemed perfect. They were happy, traveling together, partying, and enjoying life. To everyone around them, they looked like a dream couple. But good days don't last forever. Their relationship soon turned toxic and dark. Christian's friends started noticing changes in him. Before meeting Courtney, he was full of life, always smiling, but now he seemed distant and lost in thought. His stress was evident. It wasn't just his imagination, it was real. Courtney became incredibly controlling. Even over the smallest issues, she would get furious and lash out at Christian. She slowly pulled him away from his friends and isolated him. The more time they spent together, the worse it got. And it wasn't just verbal abuse. Courtney's anger often turned physical. At first, it seemed minor, a push in public, a light slap on his chest during arguments, but soon it became a pattern. Despite this, Christian stayed. Courtney manipulated him emotionally, and over time, he became her emotional hostage. He worked as her assistant, constantly traveling with her. Whether it was for photo shoots or social events, Christian was always by her side. But what started as devotion eventually became fear. And little did anyone know, this toxic relationship was about to take a deadly turn. Courtney and Christian's relationship continued to spiral out of control. Courtney's alcohol consumption had increased drastically. She became even more violent under the influence, making Christian her constant target. Despite everything, Christian stood by her. He believed she would change, or perhaps he was simply afraid of leaving. One day, things escalated beyond control. The couple had yet another intense argument. But this time, Courtney's rage turned dangerous. In a fit of fury, she threw a glass at Christian, injuring him. The neighbors, alarmed by the sounds of shouting and breaking glass, called the police. When the officers arrived, they found Christian visibly injured. Courtney, however, showed no remorse. She was taken into custody. But surprisingly, it wasn't her first time behind bars. However, unlike the previous incidents, this wasn't a DUI case. This time, it was domestic abuse. Courtney spent a grueling 12 hours at the police station. Despite the physical injury, Christian refused to press charges. His only concern was getting her out of custody as soon as possible. He stood by her side, defending her actions. Even after everything, Christian didn't leave. He was still deeply in love with Courtney, believing their relationship could heal. Together, they made a significant decision. They wanted a fresh start. A new city and a new beginning. Christian hoped for a peaceful life in London, but Courtney had other plans. She insisted on moving to Miami. And guess what? Miami it was. In January 2022, the couple moved into a luxurious apartment in Miami. With Courtney earning an enormous amount from OnlyFans, she picked one of the most expensive apartments in the city. Their rent? A staggering $10,000 per month. Courtney paid for the rent entirely on her own, and she never let Christian forget it. She constantly reminded him that she was the sole provider, using it as a way to manipulate him. She would threaten him, saying she could throw him out anytime she wanted. But the change in location did nothing to change Courtney's behavior. She even admitted in a podcast interview that she was toxic, and what's shocking is that she seemed proud of it. In Miami, the fights and abuse only worsened. Courtney continued to scream, belittle, and physically harm Christian. Their relationship was no longer just toxic, it was dangerously volatile. Courtney's violent outbursts weren't just verbal, they often turned physical. One day, during a heated argument, Courtney lost control. In a fit of rage, she grabbed all of Christian's clothes, stormed onto the balcony, and threw them down onto the street. She screamed, "Get out of my house!" Christian, exhausted from the constant abuse, didn't retaliate. Despite everything, he stood there, hoping the storm would pass. And it did, temporarily. Courtney's pattern was predictable. After every violent episode, she would apologize profusely. She'd shower Christian with expensive gifts to make up for her actions. It was a vicious cycle of abuse and regret. But the truth was, the damage was already done. Then came the video footage, undeniable proof of Courtney's violent tendencies. A security camera inside an elevator captured one of their violent encounters. In the footage, Courtney can be seen hitting Christian repeatedly. He doesn't fight back. Instead, he simply tries to shield himself, raising his arms in defense. His face, full of frustration and sadness, says it all. This video wasn't a one-time incident. In another leaked clip, Courtney was seen attacking Christian in their apartment. Neighbors reported frequent shouting matches and the sounds of objects being thrown. Despite the escalating violence, Christian remained silent. The question is, why didn't he leave? Christian's friends noticed the drastic change in him. He was no longer the cheerful, carefree guy he once was. Instead, he appeared constantly anxious and emotionally drained. Before Courtney, he was described as a happy, ambitious young man. Now, he seemed like a shadow of his former self. Courtney's controlling behavior made sure he stayed isolated. She systematically cut him off from his friends, convincing him that she was the only one he needed. But the violence wasn't just emotional. Witnesses recalled incidents where Courtney would push Christian in public or slap him during their arguments. In one particularly humiliating moment, she shoved him during a party, drawing gasps from onlookers. The emotional scars ran deeper than the physical ones. Courtney's drinking worsened her behavior. Her alcohol addiction intensified her violent tendencies, making her unpredictable and dangerous. When intoxicated, she lashed out even more aggressively. Despite everything, Christian stayed. He held on to the hope that Courtney would change, that the loving person he fell for would return. But little did he know, the worst was yet to come. Christian and Courtney's relationship was nothing short of a roller coaster ride. One argument escalated to the point where Courtney, in a fit of rage, threw a glass at Christian. The situation got so intense that the police were called. Courtney spent the entire night, 12 long hours, at the police station. But the most shocking part, despite everything, even after sustaining a head injury, Christian refused to press charges against Courtney. He stood by her side, supported her, and even defended her in front of the police. His only concern was to get Courtney out of lockup as soon as possible. They were in love, and no amount of chaos could tear them apart. At least that's what Christian believed. After the incident, the couple decided to leave Texas for a fresh start. Christian wanted to move to London, while Courtney preferred Miami. And as you might have guessed, they chose Miami. In January 2022, they moved into a luxurious apartment in the city. Courtney was making significantly more money, so she picked an expensive place with a staggering rent of $10,000 per month. She paid the rent alone, a fact she constantly reminded Christian of. Often during arguments, she'd threaten to kick him out and leave him on the streets. Despite the change in location, Courtney's toxic behavior remained the same. She publicly admitted on a podcast that she was toxic, and she seemed almost proud of it. In Miami, her temper flared just as often. She would scream at Christian, physically assault him, and even threw all his clothes off the balcony once, demanding that he leave her house. And yet, after every heated fight, Courtney would apologize. She showered Christian with expensive gifts, hoping to erase the damage. Then, a chilling video surfaced online. It was from a security camera inside an elevator. The footage showed Courtney repeatedly hitting Christian. He didn't retaliate. He simply raised his hands to protect himself. The video spoke volumes about the power dynamic in their relationship, and sadly, this wasn't the only incident. Another video filmed inside their apartment showed Courtney violently attacking Christian, yelling at him, and physically assaulting him. Once again, Christian did not fight back. He endured it all. Despite the unbearable toxicity, Christian stayed. His messages and letters, which later surfaced online, revealed the depth of his despair. He was miserable, yet he couldn't bring himself to leave Courtney. His love for her ran so deep that even when she broke him emotionally, he still chose to stand by her. Christian always defended Courtney, even to the police. No matter how much she hurt him, he remained loyal, hoping things would change. But with every incident, the cracks in their relationship grew deeper. This is not Courtney. His love for her ran so deep that even when she broke him emotionally, he still chose to stand by her. Christian always defended Courtney, even to the police. No matter how much she hurt him, he remained loyal, hoping things would change. But with every incident, the cracks in their relationship grew deeper. This is not just a story of love. It's a devastating example of how manipulation, emotional abuse, and toxic behavior can trap someone in a vicious cycle. And sometimes, even the strongest love isn't enough to save a relationship. Christian loved Courtney deeply. All he wanted was for her to stop treating him so badly so that they could live like a normal couple. Despite the endless arguments and the emotional pain, he still held on to the hope that things would change. In one of the text messages that surfaced later, a chilling revelation came to light. In November 2021, during one of their violent fights, things escalated to a horrifying level. Courtney stabbed Christian in the leg with a knife. The fight was vicious, but like always, once it ended, Courtney apologized profusely. And like always, Christian forgave her. Even after such a horrific incident, they stayed together. To outsiders, it was evident that Courtney and Christian shouldn't be together. Their relationship had become a ticking time bomb, but they kept trying, desperately holding on to what little was left. Yet, that knife incident was nothing but a foreshadowing of a far darker event, one from which neither of them would recover. The final incident. On April 3rd, 2022, at around 5 p.m., a distressing call was made to the police. The caller was Courtney. Her voice was trembling and she was sobbing uncontrollably. In the background, Christian's voice could be heard, weakly gasping, "I'm gonna die." When officers and paramedics arrived at the couple's Miami apartment, they were met with a horrifying scene. The once luxurious apartment was now in complete disarray, with blood splattered across the walls and floor. Amidst the chaos, Courtney was found sitting on the floor, holding Christian's limp body in her arms, sobbing uncontrollably. Blood pooled beneath him. She had stabbed him, this time directly in the chest. Christian's body trembled in pain as he struggled to breathe. The officers immediately pulled Courtney away, separating her from Christian. She was hysterical, repeatedly begging to stay by his side. But the paramedics rushed Christian to the hospital, desperately trying to save him. Despite their best efforts, the damage was irreversible. Christian had lost too much blood. The odds of his survival were slim. The confession. Shockingly, Courtney didn't hesitate to confess. As soon as the police arrived, she admitted that she had stabbed Christian. The officers arrested her on the spot and took her to the station for questioning. Even without her lawyers present, Courtney spoke freely. When asked to explain what had happened that day, she recounted it without hesitation. According to her, the day had started normally. Christian had gone for a walk around 1 p.m., while Courtney stayed back at the apartment. She talked to her mom on the phone, did some laundry, and spent the afternoon watching true crime videos on YouTube. At around 4 p.m., she briefly stepped out for a while, seemingly in a normal state of mind. But what happened next, only Courtney could explain, and her story would soon be scrutinized by investigators. The question remained, what really happened in that apartment? Was it truly a tragic accident, or had the relationship's toxic nature finally reached its inevitable, deadly conclusion? The truth would soon unravel, revealing the chilling reality behind Christian and Courtney's tumultuous relationship.